Welcome to Colney Talk podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Colney Talk podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host, Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Delving into this disappointing 2-0 loss against Bournemouth. Brace yourselves, folks, as I unpack a match that left me all feeling frustrated and speechless. Some interesting lineup changes. The absence of Saka and Timber was notable, but welcoming back Ben White and Mikel Merino making the first start for the club. We had the players to do the job like we have managed notable absence in the past. Well, that was a wishful thinking on my part in terms of managing. From the outset, it was clear that Arsenal were struggling to find their rhythm. Bournemouth's shape and intensive press forced us to go long more often than we'd liked, and that was disrupting our usual passing game. Our inability to establish our typical fluid style was evident, and the team looking somewhat stiff. I mean, that's nothing new, but it was a good challenge. That's how I thought about it, and we were working through gradually to figure things out, but Arsenal didn't do well enough, and that's how we kept getting ourselves in a very difficult situation. And then the game's pivotal moment came when Saliba received a straight red card. A careless back pass from Trossard, putting Saliba in a precarious position, leading the last-man challenge on Ivan Nielsen. I can't argue with the call, nor should I. We played a game with a lot of uncertainty. This is the kind of experience we had where it's play our game, but play with some calmness. Yes, a little bit of caution, hold things down, get some real understanding of how they're pressing us, which they did really well, but then grow well into the game. But we were now left with playing with 10 men for another hour. Not a game, for goodness sake. It's not, we never had the chance to really show ourselves right. And even with some of these adjustments, as far as I mentioned, our absence of some of our star players, it's not a big deal, really, because we have the players to do the job. But when you have these kinds of disruptions, 10 men, I mean, the game plan is out the door. So that was it. That was the moment that completely altered Arsenal's desire and what they came to do in this game. It completely altered the game's complexion. Bournemouth were sensing blood, and they ramped up their pressure. David Raya was called up in action multiple times, like he usually does, making crucial saves to keep us level going into the halftime. The statistics at the break were telling, as you expect. Bournemouth had 7 shots to our own 2 shots, and well, I don't think any other stat would matter now, would it? Even if I told you how high or how low, because there was so much more for us to worry about. And then the second half began with Arsenal on the back foot. Bournemouth created a golden opportunity right at the restart, which they, fortunately for us, squandered. However, it really was a telling sign of things to come. Our defensive shape, as we know, is really intact. We were very resolute and managed everything, at least for the first half. And that first scare, I don't know how much it rattled us, but then that's how it began to show cracks. As Bournemouth threw more bodies forward, the right side became their primary avenue of attack, putting immense pressure on our makeshift backline. And backline meaning just one replacement, and that's just how the instability occurred. Ryan making saves, grabbing crosses in the box, and a whole lot more. And as we dealt with that in a rare attacking moment, Martinelli had a golden chance to put us 1-0 ahead in terms of the run of play. His shot, however, to me, the way I saw it, it lacked conviction. And Kepa just made a comfortable save, and that was it. And this missed opportunity would come back to haunt us. Sure enough, Bournemouth breakthrough came in the 78th minute, where a well-worked corner routine with Ryan Christie firing home a great shot. It was a sucker punch. It just left us chasing the game, and it was now a huge disadvantage. And that's how this thing just started going downhill. And then our misery was fully compounded when Kivior poor back pass led to a penalty, in the 77th minute. And this was one of those big head slaps. What is going on? The craziness and this chaos was in full force. Two individual errors, two goals conceded. I mean, this was a harsh lesson for the team and even more worry beyond this match. And that's what hurts for me the most. We're done with this. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah, but to focus on the next, it's now kind of stemming from this situation. So it was a lot. And obviously we were under siege, facing 8 shots in the second half as things were going with, 7 on target. And there's a lot to look at in this game. Yes, every team is different. We have managed well when we're one man down, but having this game to be fully defined by 2 costly mistakes, as a collective, I would say the team they have to face up to the situation and understand it was just entirely poor, just a very poor way of the team playing and managing themselves. But watching this game again with a bit of more rationale, I think there are players for me worth mentioning. So let me just get straight to my top 3 performers. First up, Kai Havertz. He showed admirable work rate in difficult circumstance, completed 88% of his passes, providing himself as a reliable outlet, taking away pressure, and he did that consistently. And there's just a lot of credit that goes to him. He won 3 aerial duels, helping relieve more pressure on the defense, and still contributing as well. His pressing and defensive contributions were crucial after we went down to 10 men, and there was so much you can see from Havertz that was the positives that you can point out. Second player, Mikel Merino. Not a great way to remember your starting debut, huh? Well, he had a solid outing despite the results. He made great tackles and interceptions. I saw him in different positions, showcasing his defensive awareness. He completed 2 key passes, trying to spark our creativity from deep. And if I remember correctly, it was his pass to Martinelli that gave him the chance to at least put us 1-0 up, but that just didn't happen. And more to the point, he maintained composure under pressure with even 85% pass completions and dealing with too many situations. And I mean, for his first start, not bad at all. There is so much more to be excited with this player. So I'm glad that he went through this, but not to be as a circumstance of a loss. But there's a lot more that we will get from him. So there's excitement there. Third and final player, Declan Rice. Once again, he was a pillar in the midfield. He led the team with tackles and interceptions. He was everywhere. Drove the ball forward to get away from Bournemouth's press and drop back for additional support defensively. So there was a lot that you could applaud Declan Rice for, and he covered enormous ground, often filling in gaps left by that red card situation. And his leadership, his communication, it was really vital in organizing the team and playing really well together with Partey. I guess it's obvious who I'm calling out in this match, and it's Trossard. I don't often like to talk a lot when someone has some costly mistake or so, but his performance was poor. His careless back pass that led to Saliba's red card was the turning point in this match, and this error now not only cost us in this game, but will have repercussions in the upper fixtures as we lose Saliba to suspension. Trossard's decision making and execution in crucial moments were below the standards that we expect from him, and it's moments like this that pushes us off our course just a bit. And he's a playmaker. He does a great thing when he's on the pitch, but there's a lot of reflection that is needed now, because his actions has led to a lot of bad situations. Not to mention, he also had suffered his own red card situation much earlier, I think about a couple of weeks back. So there's something to be said, there's something to be talked about, and we just really have to deal with it soon and fast. Now, Arteta's game plan, as it was thrown out in disarray by this early red card situation in our build-up, which is usually a place of our strength, became so disjointed. I mean, the absence of Saka's creativity on the right was palpable, and we struggled to create any meaningful chance. And then the introduction of Martinelli in the second half provided a brief spark, but it wasn't enough to turn anything or do much. But I do believe that if we had a chance to score, we could have, held it down, dug deep defensively as we do, and who knows, we could have actually won the game. But it was completely the opposite. Defensively, the team showed great resilience for long periods of time. However, the constant pressure from Bournemouth eventually told, exposing gaps to cover all dangers. The crosses that Ryer defended or deflected a lot showed some of those gaps, and the decision to play Kivior out of position at the right center back after Saliba's dismissal, which proved costly. I mean, it shouldn't have been a question to begin with because he's a center back. He's played in the right before. Yeah, maybe not in this circumstance, but that doesn't matter. He's a center back. He just should be able to go in there, play comfortably enough. But he struggled. He struggled really hard to adapt, and it was quite telling that he quickly got subbed off as well. Someone that just got subbed in the game. So that's a lot. And we'll see what's going to happen from there. And this defeat, it's particularly frustrating because it's largely self-inflicted. Two individual errors directly lead into Bournemouth's goal, and the red card completely changing the complexion of the game. That's a lot. That's just too much. And it's a stark reminder of one moment of carelessness, one lapse in concentration, and the entire match turning on its head. The disappointment stems not just from the loss, but from the manner in which we lost through our own mistakes rather than being outplayed by a superior opponent. Well, they were the superior opponent. They pressed us hard. They kept things tight for us. But as I've said, we work through these difficult situations and get ourselves in the game. And that's from our maturity, experience, how we manage, and are trained for situations like this. But they really were superior. So credit to them. And now Arteta, he will need to rally the troops and address this defensive lapses that that's crept into our game. And now we got to look to see how we respond to this adversity, as we definitely have to move on. So, there's much to take from this and hopefully turn it to positives. And, there's always that outlook that we would. But then here are some key interesting areas that need addressing. Defensive stability. Now, the question is, with Saliba suspended, would Timber be the one to fill in, or would it be Ben White? I mean, the partnership of, Big Gabby and Ben White may need to be revisited, but who knows? There's just so much questions that will need to be answered much sooner. And then in terms of our attacking fluidity, I just hope that the absence of Saka isn't extended to the next game or something. Like maybe he was rested for another, time to heal and then get ready as the game goes on, because we need him in every way, shape, or form. But I wouldn't want to just put my whole hopes on him, is on the whole team. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for that. And then this situation of red card, as I said, especially with Trossard, this is the third red card in 8 games. The team needs to grow their mental discipline. I mean, it's going to be a strong point of emphasis before they even go to game tactics and really talk about this. From a leadership standpoint, the team, they just need to just stop and reflect and change some things, because we can't keep going on this way. This 2-0 defeat to Bournemouth was a bitter pill to swallow. From the early red card to where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Yeah, I can't wait to just forget about this. But, it's important to maintain perspective, because this is our first league defeat of the season and the year. So it's not an easy thing for sure. There's a lot to give credit and a lot to, just not lose all hope or, lose our mind in any way. But more to the point, as we go forward, it's how we respond to this setback that will be crucial. And the character of this team will be tested in the coming weeks. So we definitely are going to support them, but more importantly, are looking to see how they respond. For us fans, while it's natural to feel frustrated and disappointed, we'll just quickly have to leave this one behind us, because that's all we can do. So it's us to do that, and the players, they'll feel the pain. They do feel the pain, and this defeat is going to hang on to them, and they have to react in the right way and make sure that they would be itching to turn this and prove a point. So that there's more hope, and we'll definitely be looking forward to it. All right, folks, that's it for today's episode. We'll leave this here and move on. There's nothing more we can say about how this turned out, but it's a very disappointing outing for this weekend. But we look ahead. Until next time, take care. Bye.